Just a few days before his death, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States of America, had a dream. In this dream, he saw people crying, people sobbing all around. And he was curious and he asked a soldier who was standing by. He asked him, "Why are people sobbing? Why are they mourning?" So the soldier replied, "The president was killed by an assassin." So when Abraham Lincoln woke up after that dream, he confided in his wife as well as a friend. And this story has been passed on through the autobiography of his bodyguard. And the name of the bodyguard was Ward Hill Lamon. Ward Hill Lamon. And he told this story many years after the president had died. So this brings into question divine premonition. Does God whisper to us divinely to warn us or to inform us? In April 18th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln breathed his last. And it was established that he was assassinated by a guy called John Booth, John W. Booth. And so the country mourned, and the president was buried at the Oak Ridge Cemetery in Springfield, Illinois. So when he was alive, was Abraham Lincoln a Christian? Was he a believer? This is a very interesting question because I found a statement that he made in 1846 when people were accusing him of being anti-Christian. He made this statement in an 1846 handbill. He said, "The fact that I'm not a member of any church or any Christian church is true, but I have never denied the truth of the scriptures, and I have never spoken with intentional disrespect of religion in general or of any denomination of Christians in particular." So this was his statement. In the book of Genesis 41:25, we find that Pharaoh had a dream. And in this dream, it was very confusing. In fact, he could not even remember what he dreamt. So they brought in a young boy from Israel, whose name is Joseph, to interpret the dream. And true to the word, the dream was interpreted. Joseph was able to interpret the time that was coming of famine, and they were able to save not just the country, but also the region in terms of food security. So in these examples, we can see that God can use anybody. God can give anybody divine premonition or a foresight or some divine whispers. He spoke to Pharaoh. Pharaoh was not a believer in the true God, but he still showed him what was coming. Now he used Abraham Lincoln, who was a believer in the Bible. And either way, God can use anything. In fact, God can use even an animal or even an inanimate object to deliver a message. That is good to note for us as Christians. And also during the Bible times when God used to send his prophets and all that, in the book of Amos 3:7, it says, "Surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets." But as Christians, we are supposed to take this and discover that God no longer uses just the prophets. After the dispensation of Jesus Christ, God uses anybody who accepts the Holy Spirit, even you as an individual, even me as an individual. As long as you're seeking God and you're walking in his divineness, God can use you. Even for people who are not walking, God will use anything for his divine purpose to be accomplished. So my question for you today is that have you experienced a divine premonition or a divine whisper from God? So for me, I have had an encounter with this divine premonition. And this is a story that I have not shared even with my relatives. So I was planning to share this story with my kids when they were old enough to understand. But because I was talking about divine premonition and divine whispers, I decided it ties together. Let me just share this story and maybe it may encourage somebody maybe who's doubting about the divine presence the divine presence of our Holy God. So if you're not familiar with this channel, you probably don't know that I was widowed in the year 2021, September. In fact, September 1st, 2021 is the day my husband passed away. And he passed away due to COVID-19 complications. So around 2 months before my husband passed away, I had a dream, a very vivid dream. It felt as if I was living inside the dream. And in the dream, there was a lot of chaos in terms of climate. Things were flying all around. It was like a hurricane of some kind. I could see things lifting up and just flying away. And there was also rain and a lot of chaotic things in terms of the weather. But in the midst of that dream, there was a building with elevators. You can see the first floor, the second floor, and like that. So in this chaos, this elevator moved from number 1 all the way to number 48. It moved all the way to number 48, and I assume that's the 48th floor of that building. And in the midst of that chaos and things flying around me and the rain and all that, I decided that this cannot be reality. So I decided, if I'm dreaming, let me wake up. And true to that, I woke up. In that moment, I woke up. And of course, this dream was abstract. I didn't know what to make of it. But I remembered every detail, and more so the number 48. This was about 2 months before my husband passed away. So now come September 1st. My husband, of course, passed away in hospital due to complication of COVID-19. And as we mourned together with my family, I had no recollection of this dream at that point. It didn't matter. Even if I remembered, it had no relevance whatsoever. Until the following year, the year 2022, around February. And the reason why I remembered this dream in February of 2022 is because my husband's birthday is Valentine's Day, 14th February. 14th February, that's his birthday. So a few weeks to his birthday, I asked myself what, it could have been like if he was here. This was the first birthday we were not celebrating together. So I asked myself, okay, how old would he have been? He's 1 year older. And that's when it made sense. February 14, 2022, my husband would have turned 48 years. And so it dawned on me. And this dream from nearly a year before that came to me. And I saw the significance of number 48. This is a story that I've never shared with anybody because it was just cooking in me, just looking at how it shaped my life after that. So to me, it showed or proved that there was the divine presence of God ordering my steps, maybe telling me that this was the will of God. That's my interpretation. Showing me that whatever happened did not happen without God's knowledge or God's plan. He gave me a glimpse of it in a dream, which I figured out nearly a year later. And this for me was a divine premonition or a divine whisper. Although it did not make sense in the beginning, it made sense after the death. And I was comforted. I felt divine comfort from that incident. From these divine whispers to divine premonitions, as Christians, what is the take home? What is the takeaway? The takeaway for me is that when you're walking with God or closely with God, He will always use His action. He will always use whatever He has, whether it is dreams, whether it is convictions, to show you or to guide you. In my case, it was to comfort me. This showed me that this incident that is traumatic that happened to our family, it proved to me that God sees it. It was not just random, it was the will of God, and it had to go the way it did. And it mattered. And I felt seen and heard. I felt comforted at that moment because I knew that the divine was not surprised. The divine already was in charge. And the ultimate Bible verse for me today in this devotional comes from the book of Proverbs 3:5-6. This is the Bible verse that holds a lot of weight when it comes to divine walk with God. Indeed, we are walking a divine walk with God because it's nothing natural. It's not natural. It is supernatural. All of us as Christians, we are walking a supernatural divine walk with God. So the book of Proverbs 3:5-6.
It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." So this verse assures us that if we trust God completely and acknowledge him in all we do, he will guide and direct our lives.
So if you have any personal experiences with divine whispers or divine premonitions from God, feel free to share in the comments below. Let us learn from your experience. Let us share notes. If you haven't liked, shared, or subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so that we can spread this message of hope to many people, or to as many people as possible. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. My prayer for you, as usual, together with your family, is that you may be whole and well. Let us meet in the next video.